All right, so this is day one of the Freak Off mixtapes. All right. Jury selection kicked off today in Big Government v. Diddy. Okay, this is literally United States. United States v. Sean Combs. This is a big case. It is being reported by the New York Post that Diddy reportedly was anxious. He communicated to the judge that he was anxious, which is understandable considering that he is the defendant in this case. As far as potential jurors, two jurors have been impaneled. So, jury selection, pretty much just voir dire questioning of potential jurors to figure out if they can be impartial, if they can decide this case in an impartial fashion. All right, so as far as jurisdiction is concerned, this is New York. We know that it's a big government. A big government does have a high conviction rate. They typically only take on cases that they are almost certain they're capable of winning or securing a conviction. And I've said this over and over again. Big government investigates first. The very last thing they do is arrest. Again, going back to jury selection, a number of potential jurors, this is according to the New York Post, okay? A number of potential jurors were questioned today by both sides, the prosecution as well as the defense. They filled out questionnaires. This is pretty much standard practice. We've seen this in Karen Reed. I mentioned this because we're currently watching the Karen Reed trial together. We're following that trial together. The one aspect of federal courts, which is, again, it depends on the state jurisdiction. But as far as the Diddy's case is concerned, we do not really get to see what occurs in the courtroom because cameras are not allowed in federal courts. So we have to rely on reporters. Hopefully, they are reporting accurately. So, as far as the questioning of the potential jurors is concerned, potential juror number 20 admitted that she liked a video on her Instagram page of a comedian poking fun at the 1,000 bottles of baby oil that the feds said they had found when raiding Diddy's mansions. Okay, she was allowed to stay in the jury pool after the court was satisfied that she could decide the case fairly or she could be impartial. A potential would-be juror, a chief marketing officer at Simon and Schuster, was excused after that individual revealed that her employer was planning on publishing a memoir for the singer L.B. Shure. So L.B. Shure was once married to Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Kim Porter, with whom Diddy actually shares children. I suppose this individual potentially could have said that they would be impartial, but that is kind of hard. That's a hard one right there. And then certain names are expected to, be heard throughout this trial. And some of those names include Kanye West, Michael B. Jordan. As far as the context within which these names would come about in this trial, apparently, that was not revealed in court just yet. So we have no idea. We don't know if these are just going to be name drops, if there's more to it, if we're not going to see any freak off tapes. But the folks in the courtroom, if they get to see any of these freak off tapes and, potential people that could be shown, I would like to believe that some names, faces could potentially be redacted. That's how I'm just trying to see this whole thing out right now. I do not know that we see, and I know people are hoping. Some people might be hoping to, see other celebrities or see how these names come to play out. But I do not know that we get to see other folks in the freak off tapes. So the court is looking at 12 jurors and 6 alternates. As far as the defense, Sean Diddy Combs will pretty much be arguing that the freak-offs were consensual encounters, and these are part of his kinky sex life, which is not criminal, and that the accusers in this case are former long-term girlfriend. I don't know about, when I reviewed the indictment itself, it also talked about male sex workers. Again, the defense is saying they're arguing that these are former long-term girlfriends, but I'm like, what about the males? Anyways, I'll leave it alone. Let me move on. So they're arguing that these, were consensual relationships and he just has a different type of sexual appetite. All right. Again, his lawyers apparently said that these are their private sex lives. They're defined by consent. There's no coercion. And the judge, this is actually very surprising. The judge hopes to complete jury selection in 3 days. I have questions about that. I have questions. I suppose, yeah, I do have questions about that because, again, if we go back to the Karen Reed trial, you guys know that I am a little wary or skeptical about the court's ability to impanel a jury in what, less than a week, for a case that was so highly publicized. As far as Diddy is concerned, though, this is New York, okay? It's New York. So most people would have heard about this man. The one distinguishing, because I was going to say that this case was not litigated in the media or in public, but I suppose as far as the attorneys are concerned, maybe that is accurate, but there's a lot of public opinion about Diddy and the baby oil, the workers, and everything else, even the raids as they were going on. So maybe not litigated in the media or in public, but this was a highly publicized case. Even the arrest was highly publicized. So I suppose maybe the case was not litigated by the attorneys in the media, but it was a highly publicized case about a pretty famous individual. And even prior to big government bringing this case against Diddy, we have the Cassie lawsuit and all the other lawsuits that were filed after that. So this is a case that, not so much this specific case, but Diddy as a whole has received a lot of publicity. So I would like to believe that the defense is probably going to look at, as far as jury selection, they're probably going to play along racial lines in the sense of trying to get individuals that are Black or African American on the jury. And I completely get why they'd want to go with that angle. We've heard this argument before. Most recently, we heard this argument in the A$AP Rocky trial. I think defense would probably have to play an angle that's closer to the A$AP Rocky jury makeup. And the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of folks have been highly critical of Diddy, and maybe he is deserving of that criticism. I hold no true opinion, but I just think from a defense perspective, okay, again, I cannot relate to having a penis. I don't have a penis. But as far as a lot of the disturbing allegations that we've seen here, the types of folks or individuals that would be able to relate to somebody like Diddy having, the appetite or the sexual appetite that his attorneys have said he has, only people with money can relate. Like, people with real money can relate to that. Ordinary people like me, I can do it. I cannot do it. I just, listen, even as I'm going over the Shannon Sharp claims, lawsuits, and I'm reading the text messages, and that white girl say, I want you to put a big Black baby in me. I cannot relate to that. I really cannot relate to that. So, because again, I like to play devil's advocate, and I was trying to figure out where the defense goes with jury selection. I don't know that arguing along or a jury selection along racial lines will do them much. And here's the thing: the ultimate truth with this Diddy case is that this is big government, all right? This is big government, and it's also New York. And we've seen some convictions out of New York. There's Weinstein. I mean, Weinstein was overturned. There's Weinstein, there's Epstein, and then there's, the orange guy. It's New York. And again, the allegations are troubling. With every case, though, there's a hole somewhere or something something you can try and poke at to try and create reasonable doubt, even as defense. But in this case, having Cassie, who is under subpoena, taking the stand and pretty much pointing at the defendant and saying, that man over there, he drugged me. Fair enough. These are allegations, okay, but I'm assuming that her testimony will be along the lines of, her civil complaint. Here's the thing, though. In most criminal cases, I have not seen it with my own two eyes, where a victim or alleged victim enters a courthouse, points at a defendant, says this man did XYZ. That pretty much lines up with the charges, and that person escaped. I've not seen it, absent somebody behaving in the fashion of A$AP Rally. Absent real credibility issues, I've not seen a criminal defendant escape that type of accusation. Anyways, jury selection will be going on for, I would like to assume, the rest of the week, but according to the judge, he's trying to wrap this thing up by Wednesday. So we'll be keeping an eye. We'll be keeping an eye on Diddy. Initially, I was like, probably don't touch that, but it's a criminal case, and I'm gonna put on my big gold panties and just cover the case. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. This is I Want a Real Lawyer.